Do you hate conflict? You avoid it like the plague, right? You morph yourself and do whatever you can to make sure that everybody's happy. But inside, you're exhausted and resentful and stressed out from holding it all together. But on the outside, you're fine. I lived like this for decades. Someone giving me a sideways glance would send me into full-on people-pleasing mode. But no matter how much I played peacekeeper, nobody treated me any better. Sometimes they even seemed to want to poke the bear. Then it hit me. It wasn't them, it was me. Wait, what I was doing was a problem? I just thought I was being nice. But I finally made the connection. Trying to avoid conflict equaled no peace, no respect. I realized if I wanted to feel people's respect and have peace inside, there were 4 things I had to stop doing. The first thing I had to stop doing was this. When you say something that you think the other person won't like, or maybe you feel like it might hurt them or disappoint them, do you preface what you're saying with an explanation? Or maybe after you say the thing or do the thing, then you explain why you did it and you go into all sorts of detail about why you did what you did or why you said what you said. We think this gets us off the hook, but what it actually does is sends a signal to the subconscious mind that we feel like a burden, like we don't have the right to do or say what we're doing or saying without explaining ourselves. And this ends up shrinking you. It makes you into a smaller version of yourself to constantly be explaining why you're living your life the way you're living your life. If you're someone who's trying to keep the peace and avoid conflict or confrontation, then this explaining seems like a way to justify what we're doing in order to avoid pushback or upset from the other person. We think if they understand why we're doing or why we said what we said, then they won't be upset or they won't be disappointed. But this exact thing is what opens the door for other people to give us pushback or to question our decisions. When we explain, this opens the door for them to start questioning us on why we did what we did. And this absolutely kills respect. It signals that our decisions are up for debate and that we need permission to make them, to basically to live our life. So the way to start learning to stop explaining yourself is to give short answers. Something like, that doesn't work for me, or no, I can't make it, but thanks for the invitation. That's all that's needed. There's no need for an explanation. And remember, if I can't trust your no, then I can't trust your yes. What does that mean? If you have taught people, we teach people how to treat us. If you have taught them that you're always the yes person, then when you do say no, editing Heidi here. I kind of fumbled that part while I was out hiking, so I wanted to re-record this part because it's important. If I can't trust your no, then I can't trust your yes. What does that mean? It means if you are someone who is always easy to get along with, always saying yes, accommodating, then people start to realize that you are always going to say yes. And your yes ends up meaning nothing to them because they know you're going to say yes. It's not a choice that you make to say yes. You do it out of obligation in order to avoid confrontation, conflict, in order to avoid disappointing them. For example, if someone asks you, you want to come to my party, and you say yes, even though you're exhausted, you might have something else already planned, but you would have said yes no matter what, even if you didn't want to go, then your yes is not a yes. It's compliance, and it's actually lying to keep the peace. The other person begins to learn that they can't trust your yes, that it's a full-out yes. It's basically a yes with conditions, with the condition that no one will be upset with you. So they start questioning in their heads, did they really mean it, or did they just not want to disappoint me or hurt me? That hurts, to know that someone is just saying yes to you out of obligation, out of a fear that they have, not because they truly want to do it. And that's the irony. The people who know that you can't say no, they begin to see your yes as hollow. This completely deletes respect from them and from yourself. And now back to the desert. So number one is to stop explaining yourself. Stop explaining your life. The second thing I figured out that I had to stop doing was to stop jumping in and managing everyone's emotions and managing how they felt. Smoothing things over before the tension could build. I was so afraid of disappointing someone or hurting someone that I would preemptively manage what I thought was going to happen in order to smooth things over and to keep the peace. And people pleasers, if you've grown up this way, being the peacekeeper, being the nice one, then we think we're responsible for other people's emotions, for their feelings. And so we try to keep things calm, keep them calm before conflict has a chance to even start. And part of this is to manage and squelch, we think, our own guilt, because we feel responsible, taking on responsibility for how other people feel. We are not responsible for how they feel, for how they react. I am not responsible for someone else's emotions, for their feelings, for their reactions. And this kills respect, because it tells them, it indicates to them that their comfort is my responsibility. And it will attract people who will use your empathy against you, because they know you'll bend. They know that you'll back down in order to placate them, in order to keep them comfortable. Maybe you're saying, but what if they take it the wrong way? What if they take it out of context? If they take it out of context, they take it out of context. You are not responsible for them taking it out of context. And there are some people who are, no matter how much you explain or try to avoid conflict or manage their emotions, they are going to be hell-bent on taking it out of context in order for them maybe to feel in control of the situation or in control of you. So if you notice this happening with the same person all the time, then I would rethink, what you share with them and that relationship that you have with them. We can speak our mind, speak our truth with kindness and care, and you can care without carrying. You do not have to carry their emotions. Maybe they are pushing back and they're asking you for more. You feel like you're the one responsible for soothing their emotions. You can just say to them, I have complete faith in you that you can handle this, that you can sort this out, and leave it at that. The third thing that I figured out I was doing to avoid conflict, I've talked about it many times, so if you followed me for a while, you will recognize this, and that was apologizing. We have to stop apologizing. Sorry has become a word that has become so commonplace in our language that most of us don't even recognize that we're doing it. But we're doing it in times that we didn't do anything wrong. Doing something for yourself, speaking your truth, taking time for you, managing your own well-being is nothing you're doing wrong to hurt someone. So stop apologizing in order to keep the peace, right? We say things like, I'm sorry, but blah, 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 and then we go on to say whatever it is. That apology is not needed. But we apologize in order to diffuse possible tension, to avoid conflict, and that's because we're uncomfortable with it. We don't want the guilt of feeling like we made someone feel bad. But saying sorry signals to your brain that you are the problem, that you feel like a burden. And all these empty apologies cheapen the ones that really matter. When you do something to harm someone and you do need to apologize, it may go in one ear and out the other because they've heard you say sorry so many times. All these sorries can make people stop taking you seriously. Apologizing a lot kills respect because we're signaling that we feel wrong for having opinions, having needs, or for just taking up space. And I think the key here is to, instead of apologizing, expressing what you're feeling in the moment. Are you feeling scared to speak up? Or are you feeling shame? Or are you feeling a disconnect with the other person? And instead of apologizing for yourself, speaking that. Instead of suppressing it, speaking it. Because when we suppress it, then we end up having an explosion at some point, an explosion of emotions, an explosion of not being able to manage what we're feeling. So expressing what you feel versus apologizing for yourself, expressing that this is uncomfortable for me to say, but I need to tell you this thing. No apology, just expressing your truth. How often do you apologize? Is it a thing that has become habituated for you, that it is just a habit and comes out of your mouth? Start paying attention to how often you apologize. And I'd love for you to comment and let me know, is this something that you have noticed in yourself? The fourth one is conflict avoidance at its peak. This is the choice you make in the moment when things start to feel tense or you think they might get tense. And you make the choice in the moment to avoid that tense situation and you stay quiet. You feel like speaking up would just be lighting a match and starting a fire. I was taught when I was young, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And I never figured out who was making these nice rules. Who made the rules telling me, how did I know what the rules were as to what was nice and what wasn't nice? And so I felt like everything that I did possibly could be hurtful to someone. So it was just easier in the long run to not speak up at all. And I learned to just stay silent. Someone said in the chat of one of my live streams, and by the way, I go live every Wednesday at 2:22 p.m. Eastern time, so come join in the chat, add to the conversation. I would love to have you there. But someone said in the chat, she said, with some people, I don't want to argue, so I just keep my mouth shut. But here's the difference. Arguing and speaking up for yourself are two different things completely. And like I said earlier in this video, some people are hell-bent on taking things out of context and creating an argument. But speaking up is not arguing. It's not starting an argument. And you don't have to participate just because they react, right? You can speak your truth, not stay silent, but then if they react, leave that to them, right? You don't have to defend why you said what you said. When we stay silent, that basically reads as agreement. People assume that you're okay with how they're treating you. People assume that things are okay in your life when you don't speak up, when you stay silent. And this doesn't keep the peace, it steals yours. And when your inner peace is gone, it is really hard to be respectful to yourself. Remember that speaking up is a boundary. It indicates what's okay with you and not okay with you to the other person. And that also indicates respect. The key to this is to speak up early. Don't let it sit with you and you ruminate over it for days, because that is what will end up in an emotional outburst instead of just speaking your truth calmly and kindly. So speak up early. I would love for you to share what keeps you from speaking up. Is it guilt? Are you afraid of an argument? Are you afraid of retaliation? Are you afraid of conflict? Is that what's keeping you from speaking up? If you've made it this far in the video, thank you for staying until the end. I heard a quote the other day that is very fitting for this video, and that is, conflict delayed is conflict multiplied. By us delaying conflict, by us delaying speaking up, we are just multiplying what the outcome is going to be in the end. It's so important to stop avoiding conflict and to stop people pleasing for that reason, because that inner turmoil of the avoidance is what is stealing your peace and what's keeping you from being respected from others and from yourself. Trying to keep the peace with everybody creates pressure and exhaustion and resentment, and it kills respect. Every time I explained, apologized, took on their emotions, or stayed silent, I was telling my subconscious mind that I wasn't good enough, that I was the problem, and that other people were more important. What I know now is I am a worthy, valuable individual put here on earth with a purpose, and so are you. And your purpose, my purpose, is not to keep the peace. It's not to play a supporting role in the movie that's your life. You're here to be the main star of that movie that is your life. Hi, I'm Heidi, and I appreciate you being here. If I can support you in being that shining star in the movie that is your life, I would love to do that. You can join the inner circle. It's $6 a month. Stay for a month, stay for a year. It's all up to you. Or if you prefer one-on-one support, I offer that as well. And links are down in the description. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.